All right, welcome everyone. Today we are going to be looking at video game access part 2, which is going to be looking at accessibility features on the PlayStation 5 and looking at the PlayStation 4 as well. My name is Kayla DeVork. I'm an AT specialist here at the Simon Technology Center. It's a part of the Pacer Center here in Minnesota. So today, here's some tips for the webinar. Paul is joining as my tech support. He will be in the chat. That's where he will include links to any of the handouts, as well as at the end of the presentation, he will link to the workshop evaluation. Please feel free to post questions, post comments, thoughts in the chat, and make sure that that's set to everyone so that you're sending it to everybody who's watching today. Also, let us know if you're having any technical difficulties so that we can troubleshoot that with you. This presentation will be up on YouTube later, so if you missed it or if you joined late, there will be a way to be able to watch the recording. If you're attending this presentation live, there's a certificate of attendance, and that will be available after the workshop once you've completed the survey evaluation, which will be at the end of the presentation. You can see that there's a screenshot to the right, on the right of the screen, where it's my right. I don't know if it's your right. But it's titled, at the end of the evaluation, you're going to see that text, and then in order to get the certificate, you're going to want to select the blue text once you see that message. Just a little bit about Pacer. Pacer is local to Minnesota, but it does have national programs, national events. We offer a ton of programs for children and adults with all types of disabilities, support for the individuals, the parents, families, and professionals. Some of the images here on the screen, you can see that we work with IEPs and 504s. One of our programs is the National Bullying Prevention Center, which their events are in October. We have transition programs, children's mental health programs. We have our Simon Technology Center, which is the department I'm in, along with many publications and newsletters. A little about the Simon Technology Center. You can see in this image, that's our lending library. Our lending library has upwards of 1,500 accessible devices for use. And what we do in the Simon Technology Center is strive to make the benefits of technology, both low tech and high tech, more accessible to children and adults with disabilities. So we do that in a variety of ways. We have the lending library, where for Minnesota residents, the lending library is a free membership. You get up to four physical items and 4 apps a month if you're checking items out at a time. We also provide just general information about assistive technology, as well as free consultations. If you're interested in looking at very specific needs that you're wanting to address, we would do consultations. And then we also offer individualized trainings, where that's looking at a very specific device or a very specific app, and doing a deeper training on that and getting you really familiar with how to use it. And all of those services are free. Today, as I mentioned, it's part 2 of video game access, and we will be looking at the PlayStation systems. I will be demoing, all of my demonstrations today are going to be from using the PlayStation 5, and we will be looking at the PlayStation 5 accessibility features, as well as 2 games. I have included in the handout I've included links to the PlayStation 4 accessibility menus so that you can look at that if you have a PlayStation 4. So we're going to look at basic accessibility features. So the accessibility features that you can turn on within the console itself. And then I'm going to briefly touch on accessible controllers. And I don't have any physical ones with me today. Our 3D printer broke as I was printing a 3D adapter for the controller. But I do have links for all of those controllers and what's out there. And then we're going to do some game demos so you can kind of see some of the features in action. You can see here, you've got a link to the PowerPoint handout. There, you can open it up via the QR code or the direct link there. Paul has also put it in the chat. I've also provided a supplemental handout that you can follow along with during the demonstrations today. You might find that really helpful. Again, you can access it on your phone using a QR code or another handheld device, or use the link. Or Paul has also shared the PDF that you can download right from the chat. All right, so I'm gonna talk about the controllers first since they're physical items, and then when we're gonna come back and I'm gonna go over, we're gonna literally walk through the entire PS5's accessibility features together in a demo that will then lead into the game demos. But here are, this list here is all of the accessibility features that come on the PlayStation. So when we talk about the accessible controllers, we've got the Xbox adapted controller, which is for the Xbox. However, with the correct adapters, so I've added those in the handouts. So that's some of those adapters are the Magic NS or Titan 1 or the Titan 2. Those three adapters will allow you to basically connect the Xbox adapted controller to a PlayStation system, whether it's the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5, and then you're able to use that adapted controller as well as all the switches that you want to connect to that adapted controller, just in, so you'd plug it in and it'd be able to work. And then we've got the Project Leonardo, and I can show the video of that. And I've added that, I've included the link to that as well in the handout. So I'll pull that up. Project Leonardo, I'm really excited about because it is PlayStation's and Sony's adapted controller. So in this video,
game accessibility to me means connection.
That allows everyone to enjoy the stories that we create.
If there wasn't accessibility in gaming, it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for people like myself to play.
It's about the games, and it always will be about the games.
For some folks, it means being able to play a game comfortably. For others, it dictates whether that game is going to be able to be played and enjoyed at all.
So playing games was a very personal experience for me because it allowed me to kind of play sports and engage in things that I really couldn't do as a kid.
The greatest part about the new PlayStation controller is it's designed from the ground up to be not standard.
The controller that PlayStation has developed offers the flexibility for the person to figure out how they would like to play and how best suits them during that stage in their life.
Really, this new controller is a toolbox.
You'll be able to layer different buttons. You'll be able to move different buttons around so that you can make sure that you're hitting the right button combinations.
The main thing I really liked was the way you could bridge over two buttons. So when you need to press two buttons at the same time, it was just one
I'm somebody who needs to lay a controller flat and be able to use more of my hand in order to control any kind of controller.
I was able to finally incorporate my left hand back into gaming, which is something that I hadn't done really successfully since childhood.
To have such a powerhouse partner like Sony take on that venture with this project is truly monumental.
We're really excited to see the impact of the controller on helping to make access to gaming available to many more people.
My dream is to be able to affect accessibility at the platform holder level. I can't wait to see what the community is going to do with this once they get their hands on it.
This controller is a big part of what it means to create accessibility, and I'm so thankful to be a part of it because it's life-changing, not just for me, but for so many people in the world.
So really exciting because there is no PlayStation specific controller right now. There is no release date yet, but I would think in the next year and a half, it will probably get a release date with a price point. This image here, you can see how it sits and how interchangeable it's going to be. And it's really cool. So all of those buttons there in the circle, like here, kind of like all of those are going to allow you to, those are interchangeable, and you can decide if it's going to be the X button or the R3 button or the menu button. So you're going to get to really customize it the way that's going to benefit you. And another really cool thing is that here, these images here, that's how many controllers you can have. So you can have one, you could have one adapted controller and one regular controller. You can have two adapted controllers, or you can have two adapted controllers and one DualSense controller. So there's going to be a lot of variety and a variability in how you can customize your gaming experience. So that's really exciting, and something to look forward to as we move closer to a potential release date for it. And then we have the quad stick. The quad stick is another really great, the quad stick is used for paraplegics, and it's basically sip and puff, and you're able to use your mouth to control. Some people are very, very good at it. Very good at it. The thing about the quad sticks is that he only goes like weekly. So his orders are a weekly thing. And so you have to basically put yourself on a wait list.
This is my setup.
And then you kind of...
It may look kind of weird at the moment, but once you see me start to play, you'll understand how it all works. These are different views of the quad stick. As you can see, the mouthpiece is a 3-hole mouthpiece. It allows you to be able to use every button which I gave it a sip. It was a quick hard sip to change modes. Allows you to move in circles so you can see where you're going. And it allows you to move forwards, backwards, angles, any way you want.
So here he is playing a first-person shooter with his mouth, which is pretty cool. So that's the quad stick. And then in this image here down in the bottom, we've got a one-handed controller adaptation. That controller that's 3D printed and then attached to the DualSense, which is the PlayStation 5's controller. It then turns that controller into a one-handed controller, which again, it's pretty cool because instead of, being unable to hold the controller, you can now access it the way that you need to. So those are the controllers. And then we're gonna jump into the demos. I'm gonna pull up the main PlayStation screen, and then we're gonna walk through the accessibility, all the accessibility features. So as we're going through it, if you have any questions like, oh, I wanna see how this color correction goes, or I wanna see what it means when it says motion reduction, things like that, please feel free to put it in chat and I can look deeper at that and show you more of it. Okay. So here's the PlayStation's main screen. Here's our hub. This is how it shows up when you just boot up the PlayStation. I'm going to go into settings and I'll walk you through how to get to the accessibility settings and then each of the settings. So you navigate to the wheel here. And then it's at the very top. So we'll select it. And then we're going to start. So they've broken up their categories into 5 categories. So we're going to start with display and sound, and then we're going to kind of move down. So the first one we have is zoom, and we can enable zoom just by toggling it. And then it's going to ask us to adjust the display area to the movements on screen. And we can toggle that off or we can toggle it on. It will disable when we're playing games. However, some games like the remastered version of The Last of Us Part 1 will allow you, it has its own zoom features, which is pretty cool. And then here you can see it's got the controls on how to do zoom. So in order to do that, so I have selected the center PlayStation button, which is here, and then the square. So it's a combo, and now we've zoomed in. And we can confirm it or move more. And I can go the more times you press that controller combination of the PlayStation button and the square, it will continue to zoom in. So that looks like, now we can go back out. We'll go to the home and I'll show you what that would look like in the home screen. And so it'll zoom in, and then you're going to be able to move. You'll be able to move your controller in that zoomed in area. I'm going to change the view so if it's possible, you're able to see the controls. But we'll go with the purple one so that it's darker. Okay, so here we've got this button, and we're going to zoom in more. So this would be, really useful if the text is really small or we just want to see better visual icons. Now we're out, and we'll go back to settings. Back to accessibility. So there we have zoom. That's how zoom works. So invert colors allows you to basically invert the screen. It's going to be bright. So now we've got them inverted. That's helpful for high contrast needs. This is what the home screen looks like. So for individuals who need high contrast, or high contrast is helpful for them, this would be useful. We'll turn it off. But we did invert. Here's color correction. Color correction will, for those that are colorblind or have need higher contrast, you can enable a filter. You can enable it, and then once it's enabled, you can pick what you need, And then once that's done, you can decide the intensity. So that can be really helpful for individuals who need to fine tune the colors on the screen. We have text size. Right now I have it set to standard, and we'll make it very large. So here now we have it showing up as very large. I use bold text just in general. Here's what it looks like without being bolded. So if you need bold text, and then you also have additional high contrast that you can turn on. This also allows, so the show check mark on enabled settings, this allows you to really be able to tell. So here you can see with bold text, it's got a check mark, which means I have it turned on. So that's just an additional way for you to see that you have a setting turned on. We've got our auto speed scroll. So we can go fast, we can go standard, we can go very slow. And that's just how quickly it will auto scroll when you're going through things. Reduce motion. So the newer, as technology progresses and as consoles progress, they do really interesting things with their home screens. So they do what's called like dynamic backgrounds, and those backgrounds kind of have movement to them. And so reduce motion kind of reduces those movements that are already kind of built in. So if you get motion sickness, you can set that off, turn that off. I do not have headphones plugged in, but our sound settings allow you to change to mono audio, which is just having the same audio going into your left and right headphones. Now here's screen reader. So this is really great. I really like it. We can turn it on.
Press the PS button and the triangle button at the same time to pause or play the screen reader. Press the PS button and R1 button at the same time. Start.
Pause. We can
explore. Home. Control. Accessible. High. Screen reader. On. Item with a screen reader. On.
That sends her to the beginning.
Item with a accessibility. Accessibility. Screen. The sub item.
But then we can change.
To move, press the up and down buttons.
Change our settings.
Fast 3. The sub. To move, the sub screen read the screen. Learn more. Enables off.
So there's screen reader, and it works with most of the basic menus and stuff on our screen.
But it doesn't necessarily work in a game.
Yeah. So Paul asked if it works in a game, and some games it will work. However, most games have their own screen reader settings now, so that you can set it right in those menus. So with this controller and with the PlayStation 4 controller, you can remap your buttons, which is this right here, custom button assignments. So for example, if you need to switch stuff around for access and what have you, you can do things like switch the left and right buttons, switch the sticks. So it'll change the sticks, and then custom. Here we can go to each button, each controller control, and change them, which can be really helpful for individuals who want to have controls on one half of the controller and things like that. Our vibration intensities, so the DualSense, it's specific to the PlayStation 5. DualSense uses haptic controls in the triggers, which is basically adding, like, the best way I can describe it is resistance to the trigger buttons to kind of emulate the experience of, like, oftentimes these controls are used for like shooting a bow or shooting a gun in a first person shooter or running or driving. And so they try to emulate kind of resistance you might experience from that. Then it'll also vibrate during like rain or events. So you can have regular, like in the controller, like in this setting, it'll allow you to set like where you want it for how the system works. And then in other games, you can also tweak it so that it's vibrating or not vibrating. Our trigger effects, that's these buttons here. So you can decide if you want it off, which then you have no resistance, no intensity. Then we got closed captions. So we can turn closed captions on, and it's going to show us closed captions when we're playing videos, like on Twitch, or just you can watch movies and things like that on the PlayStation. And then you can customize it even more. So we can pick different fonts. We can make it bigger. We can give it a different color, change the edges. We can also make the opacity different, captions, the backgrounds, things like that. And then we've got our chat transcription. I don't have a way of going into a like online party right now, but that's what chat transcription is for. And it's really great because when it's turned on, anything players that are in your party chat say to you, and so the party chat is you kind of send an invitation to friends or a group you're playing with, and they join, and you can talk to each other via a headset or through text chat. And chat transcript will basically read out loud what you send to them in a text. If you're texting it, it'll read it aloud to them. So it'll do text to speech. But then if they are talking like with their voice to you, it will transcribe it for you and put it up on the screen. And when it's turned on and you're in game, you can pin that chat, you can pin it to your game, so it's up in a corner and you can read it while you're playing. It's really cool. I've tried it a couple times. So I really like it. It can be really helpful when you're playing a game with your friends or just in a chat with other people. All right. So those that is the entire accessibility menus that are built in to the PlayStation 5. Does anyone have questions about that or wants to see more of that? Okay. All right. Well then, let's talk about Copilot. So I'm going to demo with Paul's help. We're going to demo what's called Copilot, which is a feature that's exclusive to Horizon Zero Dawn right now. And we're going to use two controllers to basically control the character. And this is a single player game. So this is really great if you're playing with somebody who maybe sometimes combat can be really difficult to kind of follow or to kind of remember all of the things. But then sometimes maybe you're playing with someone who's younger and hasn't quite gotten it all down. But basically, so it's turned on, and so you should be able to, yeah. Yep. So we're turned on. Basically, we're gonna go into my save here, and we're gonna have Paul is the purple controller here, and he's just gonna run around, and then I will do some like bow and arrow stuff. But see if you want to.
Oh, it's dark.
It is very dark. I know. I tried turning it as bright as I could get it.
So I'm just going to use one hand.
Yeah.
And just steer.
Great. So we're going to jump off this cliff.
I can't do that. All off down there?
Yeah, here.
Okay.
There. So I have turned, I was controlling with my controller. I'm moving the right stick on my controller, which is turning the camera view. And Paul is running.
It's actually kind of tricky.
Yeah.
Because I don't always know which way you're going to face. But if I took that control, then you could do the other things.
You can actually, so what's really cool is that all of the controllers are fair game. All of the controls are fair game.
So I could do anything.
You could do anything. Yeah.
You could fill in at any point.
Yeah. So I'm just doing the fighting, and Paul is running, and you can use that right stick too. The right stick will do your camera.
I just wanted to see what it was like one-handed.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We've got there's an enemy up on that cliff. There's also a falcon there.
Yeah, you better steer.
All right, here. We can jump and then glide off the cliff.
It takes you gotta have some synchronization going.
Yeah. There's another setting where you can literally just set it to like only one controller is doing like the combat and the other is doing all the other stuff. There we go.
Were we taken out? Like we went down.
Oh. We don't have any health.
This would be a great teamwork activity.
Yeah. And so I'm really hopeful that Horizon is a PlayStation exclusive, and I'm really hopeful that this feature continues to show up in other games, because the Xbox, you can pretty much co-pilot in any game you want, which can really be great, particularly for like racing games or combat games. Like, again, it can be really hard to some combat controls for stuff like Horizon can be really complicated sometimes. I'm also level 50, so they're probably really strong enemies. I forgot that. So this is like I finished the game, and so I'm high level here, so the enemies are also high level.
And this is the first time I've played this game. So.
Yeah, yes.
I wasn't even sure if the dragon was an enemy or a friend.
Yeah, so sometimes you can make them your friend, but yeah, it's hard to know. So we've died, but you can basically see how this two controllers basically become one controller.
Yeah.
There are features within this setting. So a lot of games also have what's called we can turn difficulty all the way down. Custom difficulty. Here you can see you can turn this all the way down, which means like it's easier, which can make it a lot easier, because sometimes like trying to multi-control or do certain things, there can be really complicated controls. It can be hard to remember what everything is, things like that. But that's Copilot. And then I'm actually going to demo a really cool feature that I like a lot to open up the next game I want to show you, because I want to show you accessibility presets.
There's one question asking if any of these features are exclusive to PlayStation.
Yeah, so the only feature that's really exclusive is the voice command, which I'm going to show shortly. And it's only exclusive in the sense that you do not need a third-party device like an Amazon Alexa or a Google Home or a Google Assistant. I'm going to show you right now actually how to use voice command that's built into the system. It's a beta right now, but it's really cool, and it has really great potential. So that's really the only difference, because Xbox already has an adapted controller that's specific to the Xbox, and has a little bit more accessibility features. But the games, the Sony games, and they're getting there, they're moving there. So to turn on voice command, I have voice command on, and so basically what I'm going to say is, "Hey PlayStation, open God of War Ragnarok."
Okay.
And she opens it for me. You can also ask her to go to menus, all kinds of really cool stuff. And you don't need a mic, because the PlayStation 5's controller has a built-in mic that when you aren't playing, like if you're not using voice command, I recommend muting it. Otherwise, when you join like a lobby for like Fortnite or Call of Duty, that mic is going to be on, and you might not know. All right, so this is the main menu of God of War Ragnarok. It's a new game. It just released in November of 2022. Something that PlayStation, Sony is doing now is including accessibility presets, and I really like the presets because if you don't want to go through every detailed every detailed item in an accessibility, or you don't know which ones like make sense to have on, or which ones you actually like. They're gonna give you the presets based on categories. And so here you can see we've got vision accessibility, and then it's telling us these settings include large text, high contrast, navigation and traversal. Those are really cool. Those are kind of new features coming to games. And I'm going to show you how those work in this game, which is, it can be really helpful if big wide open games is really hard for you to like follow the navigation tools. The combat camera locking on, audio cues and auto pickup. Audio cues are really, really cool. And I'll show you those as well. So we've got our vision accessibilities. If I turn it on, we can apply it. We've also got hearing accessibilities. And here you can see it's like a suite of presets that'll include the large subtitles, captions, speaker names, direction indicators. So it's going to tell you where on the screen it's coming from. So I'm just going to turn all of them on, and then you can kind of see how that works. Motion reduction is a really great setting too, because there are people who previously wouldn't be able to play certain games, because when games are made, they include in order to try to create an immersive experience, they try, game developers will try to, include things like, oh, the screen will shake if you're being grabbed or grappled, right, by an enemy. But for some people, that shake of the screen can really cause nausea. It can cause headaches. So having that turned on, other things like camera sway, when we're aiming and things like that, they try to emulate like weapon sway, or like when you're looking in, they'll try to emulate like the sway of that or the wind. Turning those off can be really helpful. Motor accessibility. I like to have auto sprint on, because then I don't have to hold a button down. But for some people, that's a mobility thing for some people, and that can be being able to just touch the button once and not have to hold their hand there or their finger there. That's a really great thing. So we've got those all turned on. We're gonna go continue, and it's gonna load me into the game, and I'll show you it. Some of these features are gonna show up just right away, like the subtitles and things like that. Audio cues. You're gonna hear audio cues in the background if I'm close to something.
Where to first?
Like a loot
We could
box.
take care of any lingering business in the realms.
Or investigate those pieces of Asgard.
Either way, we're with you, brother. Lunda also mentioned there's going to be a get-together to honor Brock's memory at Rab's Tavern in Svartalfheim. I'd like to go.
All right. So there is a mission activated here. I'm gonna turn away from it, and then I'm gonna trigger the button that would pin me back to the direction I need to go, which is the navigation help. That's the navigation help setting. So we're just gonna run somewhere, and then turn it on.
Screen reader.
Well, here you can see we've got screen reader
Enables narration of on.
within it
Off.
already built in,
Enable.
which is pretty great. I want navigation assist. You can also get like puzzles. If puzzles are, if you need more time on puzzles, you can add extended time, mini games, things like that. We're gonna use. So we've turned audio cues on, and navigation assist is on. Let's see. All right. The weapons will auto close on their own. Where is I would like subtitles should be on. Okay. So then you're going to see the text now. I must have had a bunch of settings already on, and then when I turned them on, it wanted it off. So not only can you do the PlayStation settings, but then there's even more settings specific to each game, which is really helpful because then you can add things here. Okay, so we're gonna run. Up at the top, you can kind of see, hopefully it's not too dark, you can see the navigation. It has the E there for going east. And so we're just gonna run, and then it's supposed to send me the direction I need to go.
Screen.
You can turn mini boss checkpoints on, which helps you with difficulty settings, which is helpful. You can have a reticle dot. The dot will kind of keep you in the correct direction. R3. I was pressing the wrong control. Let's set. Let's set a marker. All right, so we see that red little marker up there. It says it's 352 meters. We're gonna run in the opposite direction. And then I hit that R3 and you see how it moves the camera in the direction I need to go. I'll do it one more time and you can, sometimes it can be really, it can be challenging at times to kind of follow the mini map or the compass. And we can get turned around because there's so many cool things to do in a game. And so just having that one button that you can just press and it'll say, hey, actually you need to go in this direction. So we can turn around and go in that direction. There's also different ways of doing that and stuff like that too. But I really like having the navigation stuff on. That can be really just helpful because if I get busy just kind of wandering around and then I'm like, oh no, which direction, where did I go? It's a quick way of getting there. I see someone has a question. When running updates for the PlayStation, can one actually run the beta versions of the updates with new features as like on the Xbox? Yeah, so with all betas, PlayStation's going to say, you might lose some settings. However, the beta versions, that's a good way to test out some of the new updates and tell how you like them. So it should be the updates of new features in a very similar way to the Xbox. Here you can see actually the camera swaying. So that's the camera sway. And you can shut that off completely so that there is no camera sway at all at any point. So those are those settings. Does anyone want to see anything specific or have any questions about a specific PlayStation game that they might have questions about?
I found these for you. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean. Tell me the number of your selection or
Yeah,
say show more.
a few months ago, I probably would have said the Xbox, but
I couldn't find any results.
I think we're getting close to having it be pretty similar. I think Sony is catching up. I think the PlayStation is catching up. And I think, within the next year and a half, they're going to be pretty comparable, especially once that PlayStation controller comes out. Then I think they're really going to be on the same playing field and possibly better positioned because you can only use 2 Xbox adapted controllers at a time. You can't do 2 and 3 in the same way that the Project Leonardo is saying it can do. So, yeah.
Does that PlayStation controller have switch inputs?
So it does have a 3.
The adaptive delete are.
Yeah, it should. It should have. You should be able to. Yeah, and we can look at that image again, or the images should show you the prototypes. The audio cues are on. So when you're traveling or doing combat, a lot of times these audio cues will come up, like say if you're by like a cliff, it'll make a noise, and then it tells you like every thing. And this is new. This is new to like the last year. These cues are new, and an additional thing, which is really cool, because then you've got another way of telling what's happening on the screen. Some video games now, like The Last of Us Part 1, the controller now vibrates. You can turn the controller vibrate on while people are talking, so that you can hear, like you can feel how the line's being delivered. So that is intended to help individuals who maybe can't see the text or see what's happening on screen. They can feel the tonal shifts, which is pretty cool. I've been trying that out, and it's a pretty cool feature. Yeah. Yeah, the games. So remapping the controls should be a thing that's in every game. That is just a feature of most game controllers. So here we're still in God of War, and it's not in the accessibility menu. It's just right there. It's its own controller. It's its own menu. Here you go. You can invert default. I think I had this inverted because I was playing a game that the X was interact, and when I started this game, circle is the default, and it was messing me up. So every time I'd go to something, I would try to press X, but it was technically supposed to be circle. So yeah, so these are the settings, but here you can do left-handed. Here's right-handed, survivalist. These are presets, but you can do custom as well. So custom will allow you to just go right here, and we're in edit mode. Here you press the button, and that's what it does. So
This is in the game.
this is in, yep. And so God of War for sure can do that. I also know that Horizon Forbidden West can do that, as well as a lot of newer games. I would be really surprised. Most games from the last like 5-6 years can allow for controller remapping. I would be surprised if a game that maybe wouldn't is maybe like a typical, like a very straightforward platform game where you're just running in 2-dimension, like just running and kind of like pixelated and just jumping. They might not have controller remapping.
Yeah, controller remapping is a thing back in
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. So Caitlin said in chat, would love a comparison chart of features for each one and what exists. And then mentioned working with a large range of disabilities and the accessibility details matter. Yeah, definitely. So I've included a bunch of resources. Now, like, so there's things like accessible games database, or can I play that? Able Gamers also has some databases, but yeah, that's something to consider. I'll think about putting something like that together as I wrap up the video game access. As I come to wrap up there's a 3-part presentation. So as I wrap it up, I will look at maybe putting together a comparison. It's a really good idea. Whoop. All right. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I will look into doing something like that, putting something like that together. That brings us to the end of the presentation. We've got a few minutes open for questions, more questions, other things you want to look at, other questions you might have about the PlayStation. if you don't know how something works, I'm happy to show that. Here's where you get your certificate of attendance for attending. You can do the survey on your phone with the QR code. Paul has included a link that you can also do, or and then you'll be able to take that survey and you'll get your certificate. I'll leave that up so you can capture the QR code if you'd like. Scott asked about Sony and Braille access on some games. That's a really great question. I did not come across many of those features, but I can definitely look into that and keep looking because that's really cool. And that would be a really useful thing. Sue has shared some resources, which is really great. Okay. And then someone asked if I knew how to get the quad stick to work with the PS5. I believe in order to get the quad stick to work with the PS5, I believe you need the Titan 2 adapter. But you might be able to reach out to the creator specifically to get that answer. We don't have a quad stick in-house right now, so I have not been able to test any of the quad stick connections out yet. Ty mentioned it's shocking how many games don't have flexible remapping, and that seeing PlayStation exclusives have it is really great. Yeah, I agree. I think being able to remap a controller should be an automatic feature included in any game, for just because having those options are great.
Can you use the remap in the PlayStation?
You might be able to.
In the PlayStation's accessibility, you can remap.
You can, yeah. So that might be something to try with those Japanese games.
It's not game to game specific.
Right. If you want to contact us, you can give us a call at that number. You can email us, or you can check out our website. We are open to the public now, so we do tours of our library now. We're back to doing those, but we also have open houses now, open house drop-in time on Wednesday and Thursdays.
Yeah.
Yes.
11 to 4.
11 to 4.
We can do gaming specific consults.
Yes, we also, yes, I do gaming specific consults. I've taken a few of those. We do have an adapted gaming room that I'm building out as demo spaces so you can kind of see some of these things in action, get up close and try them out. Yeah, so we've got upcoming workshops. We've got a few that are pretty exciting. As I mentioned, this was part 2. February 22nd, I'll be doing a part 3 with a focus on Switch and virtual reality. I will probably be including some mobile stuff in there as well, since mobile gaming can be really popular. And just because virtual reality is still catching up to accessible tools and games. February 28th, we have a alternative communication workshop that the presenters are really excited about. And it sounds like it's going to be a really good one. March 6th, we have Strength and Focus with Tools and Strategies, which is really focused on executive functioning and how to really bolster focus. And then March 29th, we're doing Accessible Smart Homes. And that will be a review of environmental assistive technology, both things like Alexa, but also things like power links that allow you to turn environmental appliances on with switches, as well as other accessible smart home tools, things like that. We're really excited about that one. It's a first time kind of getting into doing like a deep dive into environmental assistive tech. So we're really excited about that. Paul has shared the survey again. So if you didn't catch the survey link, it's there. Yeah, that's thank you all for attending and all the really great questions. It was really great to have you all join me. Yeah. All right. You all have a really great day. Thanks for coming. Where's the